similarities between our lands.
Hello, I am Crystal Mapa and welcome to ASEAN in Focus.
Hello, I'm Gila Pablo, bringing you the news in the dynamic ASEAN region.
On today's headlines, the European Union on Tuesday announced 1.7 million euros or approximately 95.8 million pesos in humanitarian funding to provide emergency assistance to the Typhoon Odette hit provinces in the Philippines.
Health Secretary Francisco Duque III announced that the interval for the administration on booster doses shall be shortened following the approval of the Food and Drug Administration, or FDA.
And President Nguyen Xuan Phuc and the high-ranking Vietnamese delegation began their state visit to Cambodia from December 21 to 22 at the invitation of King of Cambodia, Preah Bat Samdech Preah Boromneth Sorondom Sihamoni.
As the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, or RCEP agreement enters into force on 1st of January 2022, the ASEAN Secretariat, or ASEC, in collaboration with the East Asia Business Council, is intensifying its public outreach program to ensure a high utilization rate of the new FTA deal among businesses in the region.
First in the Philippines, wherein President Rodrigo Roa Duterte on Tuesday declared a state of calamity in areas battered by Typhoon Odette, particularly in Mimaropa, Region 4B, Western Visayas, Region 6, Central Visayas, Region 7, Eastern Visayas, Region 8, Northern Mindanao, or Region 10, and Caraga, or Region 13. Duterte signed the declaration upon the recommendation of the National Disaster Risk Reduction and Management Council, or NDRRMC. He said, and I quote, "The declaration of a state of calamity will hasten the rescue and relief and rehabilitation efforts of the government and the private sector, including kung saan galing tulong, be it outside or tayo-tayo lang, where help will come from, whether it be outside or just among ourselves. This will also be an effective mechanism to control the prices of goods and commodities in the areas," unquote. As of Tuesday morning, the NDRRMC reported a casualty toll of 156, with 37 missing and 275 injured. The Department of Public Works and Highways said the damage to infrastructure was initially estimated at close to 449 million pesos.
Canada, Hungary, the United Kingdom, and New Zealand have pledged to provide over 187.9 million Philippine pesos to assist provinces hit hard by the onslaught of Typhoon Odette. On top of this, several countries like China, the United States, Japan, Israel, and Australia allocated in-kind goods for immediate deployment to the affected families. World leaders also sent their condolences to the bereaved families of those who perished in the aftermath of the super typhoon. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said Ottawa is providing financial assistance through the Red Cross, which should help address the urgent need for water and sanitation on the ground. Canadian Minister for International Development Harjit Sajjan announced that Ottawa will extend up to CAD 3 Canadian 3 million, approximately 118.7 million Philippine pesos in assistance, including Canadian dollars 500,000 for the urgent Red Cross response. Russian President Vladimir Putin also sent his sympathies and personally expressed solidarity with the Filipino people. The United Kingdom has pledged 750,000 pound, approximately 49.47 million Philippine pesos to the Philippine Red Cross. The New Zealand government, meanwhile, will donate $500,000, approximately 16.77 million Philippine pesos to the Philippines to support the IFRC's efforts on the ground. Hungary is sending 20 million, approximately 3.05 million Philippine pesos to the typhoon victims and to help restore the damaged churches in Cebu. Chinese Ambassador Wang Xilian said about 20,000 food packages worth around 8 million Philippine pesos are on their way to Cebu, Leyte, Negros Occidental, Bohol, Cagayan de Oro City, Surigao City, Negros Oriental, and other provinces hit by Odette. At the same time, 4.7 million kilograms of Chinese government donated rice are already in different Philippine ports. The Federation of Filipino-Chinese Chamber of Commerce and Industry Incorporated is likewise contributing a total of 12 million pesos through its Filipino-Chinese Community Calamity Fund. The Israeli embassy in Manila, in a text message, said Ambassador Ilan Flos is also flying to Cebu to deliver solar panels, food packs, and hygiene kits to typhoon-affected residents on December 22. The United States Agency for International Development, or USAID, together with the World Food Program and the Philippine government, has deployed 2 mobile operations of vehicles for emergency or move to Siargao and Ormoc to facilitate access to electricity and internet for responders on the ground. The Japanese embassy in Manila said Tokyo is also sending disaster relief assistance in the form of generators, camping tents, sleeping pads, portable water containers, and plastic sheets to cover roofs.
The European Union, or EU, on Tuesday announced 1.7 million euros, or approximately 95.8 million pesos, in humanitarian funding to provide emergency assistance to the Typhoon Odette-hit provinces in the Philippines. EU Commissioner for Crisis Management Hannes Lenarsik said, quote, "In an immediate response to Typhoon Rai, which caused widespread destruction and deplorable loss of lives in the Philippines, the EU stands by the Filipino people in these difficult times and has started to provide emergency relief actions to those affected in close cooperation with our humanitarian partners," end of quote. The funding will cover the immediate needs of the affected population through the provision of food, drinking water, shelter, and other urgently needed household items. The EU confirmed that cash grants will be made available to allow those most affected to sustain themselves during the time of displacement. The 1.7 million euro fund is drawn from the EU's Acute Large Emergency Response Tool, or ALERT, and can be topped up in the future as close monitoring of the humanitarian emergency and needs of the population in the Philippines continues. ALERT is mobilized in times of disasters that affect over 100,000 people, or over 50% of the population. Depending on the type of disaster, the aim is to allocate funds within 24 to 48 hours of the onset of the emergency.
Chinese President Xi Jinping on Tuesday extended condolences to his Philippine counterpart Rodrigo Duterte over Typhoon Rai, or local name Odette, that battered the Philippines last week. Xi said he was shocked to learn that the Philippines was hit by the typhoon that caused heavy casualties and property losses. On behalf of the Chinese government and people, as well as in his own name, Xi expressed deep condolences to the victims of the disaster and extended sincere sympathies to the bereaved families and the injured. China is ready to provide assistance to the Philippine side within its capacity, Xi said, adding he believes that the people in the disaster areas will surely defeat the disaster and rebuild their homes.
The Malaysian military uses boats to distribute food to people trapped in their homes after massive floods left at least 14 people dead and more than 70,000 displaced.
We actually lost everything. Our cars, our house is like nothing. Everything gone. So we hope that the government will give us like some support in terms of like financially.
Ada tiga lagi atas. Itu orang kita jaga ni. Orang kita jaga ni. Satu bot.
Dozens of people are feared missing after a landslide early on Wednesday at a jade mine in northern Myanmar, according to a civil society group and media reports. The landslide in the Pakant area of Kachin's state happened at around 4 a.m., and there were fears that about 80 people had been swept into a lake by mining waste, an official at the Kachin Network Development Foundation said. The Mizima news portal and Kitkit media also reported dozens appeared to be missing in the incident in Pakant, which is the center of Myanmar's secretive jade industry. In another landslide last week, media reported at least 6 people died. Deadly landslides and other accidents are common in the poorly regulated mines of Pakant, which draw impoverished workers from across Myanmar in search of gems, mostly for export to China.
To Saigon, Vietnam now, where the city plans to launch a series of new tourism products to stimulate during the New Year or Tet or the Lunar New Year. We have a report coming in from Ralph Kailaw. Hi, Ralph.
Hi, Crystal. Good afternoon. Here's the latest news here in Vietnam. To boost demand for the New Year, Tet Lunar New Year, Ho Chi Minh City aims to promote a number of new tourism products. Tour Vietlox Tour, travel companies Saigon, past and present, will take tourists on an adventure tour of Saigon's 300-year-old culture and history as it grew from Saigon Gia Dinh, the pearl of the Far East, to today's Ho Chi Minh City. Tourists will visit museums and historical landmarks to learn about the city's cultural and historical influences, as well as current landmarks including the Texco Tower, Saigon Skydeck, Nguyen Hu Walking Street, the city's People's Committee headquarters, and the Ho Chi Minh City Theatre. Nguyen Thai An Hoa, head of the city's Department of Tourism, said the department investigated several monuments, beautiful locations, and other attractive sites to design new tourist goods for the New Year and holiday period up to 10. Aside from city tours, Ho Chi Minh City and the provinces in the Kulong or Mekong Delta will promote tourist programs and links among themselves. Long An Province, according to Hua, offers a variety of tourism services, wherein Ho Chi Minh City is known for urban tourism, which includes shopping, entertainment, healthcare, and other activities. Long An People's Committee Deputy Chairman Pan Tan Hoa stated that the province would establish travel cooperation programs with other Delta provinces and Ho Chi Minh City. Ho Chi Minh City-based travel companies said they would provide personalized tours to Long An, including weekend getaways to ecotourism and river tourist locations. The city also intends to connect with the province of Van Tre. Fruit orchards, rowboats, horse-drawn carriage rides, and southern folk music are among the tourist attractions in Van Tre, which has a 65-kilometer coastline. The pandemic has been contained and most social and economic activities in the province have returned to normal. According to Hua of Ho Chi Minh City, Van Tre Province should stick to local resources and develop coconut products, upgrade its infrastructure, enhance the quality of its tourism services, and support tourism firms. And that's the latest news here. Back to you, Crystal.
Thank you so much, Ralph, for that update. Continue to stay safe and healthy as always.
Thank you, Crystal. Likewise, I am Ralph Clarence Gila, reporting live from Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. We live in interesting times.
And the news continues here in ASEAN in Focus after this short break.
Parang minamaliit ka. Pag may nahinang resistensya mo dito yan kapalit kamatayan na rin.
Naghahanap lagi ako ng atensyon Yun ang wala.
Masok ang pandemya, talaga sobrang dagok. Talaga grabe yung ginawa sa amin.
Gumagapang si Papa kahit mainit para lang may makain kami. Sobrang lakas ng bagyo, hindi namin alam kung dito na lang kami sa bahay aabutan ng namin, kung hanggang doon na lang kami.
Parang kaya pa ba? Kaya ko pa bang lumaban?
1, 2, 3, go!
Gulat ng puso binigay niyo. Maraming salamat po. Sa buong buhay ko po, hindi ko akalain na mangyayari sa...
Ako po si Apple David at ito ang Lingap Stories.
Welcome back to the program. The United States, in partnership with the COVID-19 Vaccines Global Access or COVAX facility, donated an additional 3,400,020 doses of the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine to the Philippines as part of its continuing worldwide effort to help end COVID-19. The vaccines delivered in 2 separate shipments to Manila on December 20 and 21 were part of the 500 million Pfizer doses the United States is making available for distribution through COVAX, a global initiative to support equitable access to COVID-19 vaccines. U.S. Embassy in the Philippines charged the affairs ad interim Heather Variava joined National Task Force Against COVID-19 Chief Implementer Secretary Carlito Galvez Jr. That's CNN.
This will, in effect, mean that the United States has helped to vaccinate 1 in 10 Filipino citizens. We are very proud and pleased to partner with the government of the Philippines on the COVID response.
And we would like to again thanks the U.S. government for providing us the biggest donations that we had. It greatly affected and favorably give some boost.
Health Secretary Francisco Duque III announced that the interval for the administration of booster doses shall be shortened following the approval of the Food and Drug Administration, or FDA. The shortened interval shall be effective on December 22. Under this new policy, boosters may already be given to adults at least 3 months after the second dose of a primary 2-dose vaccine, or at least 2 months after the primary single-dose vaccine is given. I quote, "We are exploring all possible options to safely mitigate the effects of the more transmissible variants of COVID-19 or coronavirus disease 2019. The approval came at an important time as several countries also re-strategize in light of the Omicron and other COVID-19 variants that may emerge." End of quote. That's according to Duque. Further, the DOH reiterates the importance of prioritizing vaccination among those who are yet to receive their primary series.
Here in Thailand, where the reimposition of mandatory coronavirus quarantine measures for foreign tourists on Tuesday, nixing a quarantine-free travel scheme as the kingdom seeks to stifle the spread of the Omicron variant. In early November, Thailand reopened to fully vaccinated travelers who had to isolate for a night until they received a negative PCR test from more than 60 countries. But the government announced Tuesday the so-called Test and Go scheme will be suspended for at least 2 weeks. Visitors will have to undergo hotel quarantine for 10 days or 14 days if they are unvaccinated. But 200,000 travelers who already submitted applications to enter the country will be allowed to visit quarantine-free, said government spokesman Thanakorn Wongbunkong Chana, adding that a second PCR test would now be required. He said the Phuket Sandbox, a workaround scheme that allows visitors to move around on the island while undergoing PCR tests, will remain operational. Thailand has detected 63 cases of the Omicron variant this week, including 1 community case.
Former Malaysian Prime Minister Mahathir Mohamad will be discharged from a specialist heart hospital in the coming days after undergoing a checkup, the medical facility said Tuesday. The 96-year-old was admitted Thursday to the National Heart Institute in Kuala Lumpur. His aides and the hospital had declined to give details of his condition. The institute said in a statement that doctors were satisfied with the results of the checkup and he would be discharged in the next few days. Mahathir has had health problems in the past suffering several heart attacks and undergoing bypass surgery. He has been one of Malaysia's most dominant political figures in recent decades, serving twice as Prime Minister for a total of 24 years.
President Nguyen Xuan Phuc and the high-ranking Vietnamese delegation began their state visit to Cambodia from December 21st to 22nd at the invitation of King of Cambodia, Prayabat Samdech Prayaboromneth Norodom Sihamoni. It is the first visit to Cambodia by head of the Vietnamese state following the 13th National Party Congress. At a meeting between the Vietnamese president and the Cambodian king following the welcome ceremony on December 21st morning, King Sihamoni said the visit demonstrates the Vietnamese state and president's appreciation for close ties between Vietnam and Cambodia. He expressed his belief that it will make important contributions to further strengthening fine neighborliness, traditional friendship, comprehensive cooperation, and long-term sustainability between the two countries. The king vowed to continue supporting bilateral traditional friendship and congratulated Vietnam on its achievements in both internal and external affairs, helping the country improve its position in the region and the world. President Phuc, for his part, affirmed that the Vietnamese state and people always treasure and forever remember sentiments and invaluable support that the late King Norodom Sihanouk, King Norodom Sihamoni, and fraternal Cambodian people have provided for Vietnam in the cause of national liberation in the past and national development at present.
Another airline has partnered with the government and various organizations to boost relief operations by transporting essential goods to the provinces badly hit by Typhoon Odette last week. AirAsia Philippines has already airlifted more than 20 tons of items since December 17. I quote, "Although we are faced with a lot of challenges, especially our crew who were also affected by the typhoon, we continue to soldier on to ensure that we continue to service our guests the best possible way during the peak season." That's according to company spokesperson Steve Dainisan in a statement. Post-typhoon, the airline has re-strategized flight routes and communications with local government units and airports for the speedy restart of flight operations. All its domestic flight routed fully resumed on Monday, with the exception of Puerto Princesa in Palawan, as on-ground communications continue to be a challenge in the province following the impact of the typhoon.
Staying in Philippines, the Negros Occidental provincial government based in Bacolod City sends potable water supply to southern cities and municipalities worst hit by Typhoon Odette on Tuesday. Water lines have been destroyed in the wake of the typhoon. At least 375 people were killed and hundreds injured when Typhoon Rai pummeled the southern and central regions of the archipelago on Thursday, wiping out wooden houses, uprooting trees, and knocking out power across entire islands. Defense Secretary Delphine Lorenzana has ordered the military to deploy ships, boats, aircraft, and trucks to deliver food, drinking water, and medical supplies to survivors who have been struggling for basic necessities. Rai hit the Philippines late in the typhoon season. Most cyclones develop between July and October. Another storm could be on the way. The state weather agency warned a low-pressure area was moving towards Mindanao and had a 30 to 40% chance to develop into a tropical depression. Scientists have long warned that typhoons are strengthening more rapidly as the world becomes warmer because of human-driven climate change.
Staying in the Philippines, the Manila Electric Corporation, or Meralco, will deploy a contingent of about 50 engineers and linemen to help in clearing operations and power restoration in areas that were severely affected by Typhoon Odette, or international name Rai. In a statement, the company said 25 of these engineers and linemen arrived in Cebu Tuesday. It immediately coordinated with the Department of Energy and the Visayan Electric Corporation, or VECO, and sent an advance party in Cebu on December 19 to help assess the extent of damage to power facilities. Meralco is also coordinating with concerned offices, including the Philippine Navy and PLDT, for the transportation of additional personnel, 15 vehicles, 11 generator sets, and heavy equipment to the work site. More personnel and portable generator sets are currently on standby and ready to be deployed to the other areas that would need assistance. We'll be right back after this short break.
Alam namin ang iyong pagsisikap. Dama namin ang iyong mga sakripisyo. Kita namin ang pagharap mo sa bawat pagsubok. Kaya sa kabila ng mga hamon ng buhay, nandito kami para umalalay. Kasi katulad mo, gusto rin namin ang magandang bukas para sa kanya. Hatid namin ang dekalidad na edukasyon at makabagong pasilidad sa abot kayang halaga. Kaya huwag ka na mangamba. Sasamahan ka namin tuparin ang mga pangarap niya. Maaasahan mong sulit dito ang mga pinagsikapan mo. Sa aming mga makabagong pasilidad at sistema ng edukasyon. Mailalabas natin ang aking talino at mga kakayahan niya. Kahit sa munting halaga, makakasiguro ka na makakasabay siya sa mabilis na pag-ikot ng mundo. Sa New Era, karamay mo kami sa bawat hamon. Kaagapay mo kami sa bawat hakbang. Kasama mo kami sa bawat ngiti at tagumpay.
Naimbis ko tuloy mag-jeep.
Kuya, para po. Para daw.
Ang layo na tuloy sa pababaan mo.
Susukli daw po sa 100. Hindi naman kayo makapaghintay. Susuklihan ko naman kayo.
May mga nagtitext. Nabasa ko ba text ko? Hindi ah. Mali-mali na nga spelling mo.
Tara, samahan mo ako sa ospital. Dami ko na kasing nararamdaman para sa'yo.
Sasakay ka ba? Dahil it's time for our game of the day. Tara, fit check na.
Tulog lang kayo. Ako nang bahalang kumahol.
Nasa uli ang pagsisiso.
Nakakaramdam ako ng hindi magandang pangyayari.
Panis, nakaball, videos.
Welcome back to ASEAN in Focus. Staying in Philippines, gasoline stations in this capital city are no longer allowed to gas up into containers following directives from the city government to directly pump fuel to vehicles starting on Wednesday. This policy came after Mayor Michael Rama discovered by himself that some pickup trucks joined long queues of cars and motorcycles to purchase fuel to be sold in villages at a very high price. This issuance also came amid uproars from netizens on overpriced commodities, including fuel, since the first day after Typhoon Odette destroyed power lines, which rendered gas stations closed, while some relied on generator sets to operate pumping machines. Rama said he issued a directive to the city police to strictly enforce the no stopping policy along major streets and thoroughfares, as well as no queuing beyond gas station premises to prevent long lines of vehicles obstructing traffic flow and impede rapid clearing of debris from the typhoon. In a directive issued on Tuesday, Rama said owners resisting or refusing to abide by the new policy will authorize the Cebu City Traffic Office to remove his vehicle blocking the traffic flow with the issuance of a citation ticket.
Most Asian markets rose Wednesday, extending a global rally after their latest sell-off as investors assess the impact of the fast-spreading Omicron variant. The year-end and a half-long rally across markets has petered out in recent weeks on fears about the new COVID variant and government measures to contain it, which come just as central banks began to remove the vast financial support put in place at the start of the pandemic. Traders are also keeping an eye on developments in Washington after Joe Biden said he was optimistic he could win the key vote of Democratic Senator Joe Manchin, who said Sunday he would reject the present proposal, throwing the president's economic agenda into doubt. After being skittled on Monday, Asian markets bounced Tuesday thanks to a healthy dose of bargain buying and the positive energy filtered through Wall Street and Europe. The buying was also helped by expectations that the U.S. Food and Drug Administration will authorize pills from Pfizer and Merck Corporation to treat COVID-19 as soon as this week, providing fresh tools to battle the disease. However, analysts warn that with trade thinning heading into the festive break, volatility would stay high until the new year, and Asia saw equities fluctuate through the morning. Tokyo, Hong Kong, Shanghai, Singapore, Seoul, Taipei, Manila, and Jakarta rose, but Sydney and Wellington split.
Delaying the participation or opting out from the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, or RCEP, may send the wrong signal that the Philippines is not keen on cross-border cooperation, said the Department of Trade and Industry, or DTI, which has been lobbying for the trade deal's ratification. In a statement on Tuesday, Trade Secretary Ramon Lopez explained that the country may appear as not open to closer economic integration, in addition to not being inclined to create a business-friendly environment and provide a stable rules-based system for trading. He said, and I quote, "This may impact the country's ability to attract foreign direct investments, especially when compared with our ASEAN neighbors that are already part of the RCEP. This may also affect other international trade engagements we are pursuing," unquote. Lopez called anew for Senate concurrence in the ratification of the largest trade deal in the globe in order to allow the country's participation to date. 6 ASEAN countries and their 5 free trade partners have signified their ratification. The deal is set to enter into force by January 1st, 2022. Lopez said some investments may likely be diverted away from non-participating countries, which means lost opportunities and capital flight. Citing a report, the DTI said that the RCEP region accounts for 50% of the global manufacturing output and global automotive output, 70% of electronics, and 60% of the global value chain for electrical or machinery, petroleum or chemicals, textile or apparel, metal and transport equipment, among others. As such, the department said it is critical for the country to secure preferential access to this value chain.
as the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership, or RCEP, agreement enters into force on 1st of January 2022, the ASEAN Secretariat, or ASEC, in collaboration with the East Asia Business Council, or EABC, is intensifying its public outreach program to ensure a high utilization rate of the new FTA deal among businesses in the region. In the fourth round of the RCEP webinar held last December 9, the discussion focused on investment, e-commerce, and intellectual property rights chapters of the agreement. These three areas are deemed essential to support the overall post-pandemic economic recovery efforts. Let's watch it.
The brand that's
the entry into force of the RCEP could not come at a more opportune time as we are treating the path to recovery from the pandemic. The implementation of RCEP should be able to accelerate the economic recovery process by creating business opportunity and employment for the people in the regions. The ASEAN response measures and their result impact. So last year, ASEAN economy witnesses a contract of 4.4% in terms of GDP. Our merchandise trade fell as much as about 5.5%, and the inflow FDIs in the region dropped by about 25% on a year-by-year basis. That is really a significant downfall in our economic growth. However, this year we have seen the early sign of the economic recovery based on the most recent data we collected from the ASEAN Development Bank. The ASEAN growth is expected to achieve about 3.1% growth this year, 2021. And next year, it's projected to achieve about 5%. So, maximizing the potential of the intra-ASEAN market and the broader economic integration has been identified as one of the exit strategy under the ASEAN Comprehensive Recovery Framework.
In relation to innovation for sustainable trade, renewable energy. So this is where hopefully the RCEP IP chapter will help all of these innovators and producers then take advantage in the RCEP region. So just a brief background, what is intellectual property? It's a category of property that includes intangible creations. You cannot really touch most of it, except maybe the creation itself, if it's like a motorbike or a motor car. But usually you look at it as your trademark, your copyright. In fact, even this presentation that we are doing today can be copyrighted and nobody else should be able to steal it. So, it's this sort of intellectual property. It has an economic value because it enables people to earn recognition or financial benefit from what they have invented. And so the trick about having an IP chapter is how do you balance this financial gain between what is the wider public interest? So there are actually two key areas for IP, economic and social, where you support investment in innovation and R&D activities, the new phones, solar panels, things like that, which you're encouraging. Pharma, especially now with COVID, all the test kits and everything that's coming out, all will be, being protected by your patent. And then the brand that's related to that, because there's a reputational aspect. And the creativity, during COVID, we have also seen a lot more creativity digital-wise, so many things are there. So how is that protected as you go forward, because you don't really want other people to steal your creativity as well. And then the social political aspect is finding a balance between the rights holder and the consumer. So for example, there's a lot of discussion on pharmaceutical patents. pharmaceutical patents could make it very expensive for us to get the right price for the drugs that we need now to combat COVID. So how do you find that balance? What sort of exceptions do you give? You also have issues on agriculture. Many countries have a socio-political interest in protecting their green lung, all the forests and everything. And so as you do that and people want to come and, say that, but maybe this plant is very good in having a medicinal protection, so I want to patent it. So how do you find the balance so that your original inhabitants can still use the product and yet the innovators can also be protected? So there's a lot of debate these days, especially on this socio-political nexus, because many people unfortunately have seen IP in a negative light. They equate it to big business, taking away the rights from people, but this is not really the case. IP actually protects the small business environment much more than the big, because you are there starting fresh. You don't want anyone to steal your idea, services, but intellectual property, because it is territorial aspect. So even once you improve your IP system, it doesn't mean that only the RCEP parties will benefit from it. So the question then is, why would you want to do it when you're going to have some sort of free rider? So when you're negotiating the agreement, you're going to negotiate what works best for the 15 parties.
I think IP is misunderstood, as Elizabeth brought up. I think a lot of folks wrongly view IP law, IP regulation as benefiting the big rich companies, the big rich countries. You could see this like when I lived in Singapore for almost 20 years. When I first moved to Singapore, there were black market CD-ROM sales of software a block away from the Ministry of Trade and Industry. And there was attitude, that, if we buy licensed software, we only make Bill Gates richer. But then after being educated, properly about why IP benefits not just big companies, but also small companies, there was a change in the attitude of the Singapore government. And now we see that Singapore is one of the leading lights in IP technology, IP regulation. And so Singapore has reached a lot of the benefits of investment from all countries and so I think having a stronger IP protection system in RCEP is like giving oxygen to the operating system, to the bloodstream of RCEP. Yes, without IP, we could trade like lower level, less value-added goods. But IP is the value-added. So having stronger IP gives sellers, the confidence that when they sell something, when they sell a product that has a special technology, or when they're selling software or other services, that they're protected. It benefits the buyer, because when they buy something which says, that has a special mark or special copyright, that it's authentic. You're not buying something that has been, made in the back of a warehouse, in some industrial district. It's actually being made by the real seller. So it benefits them. And then the final part about benefiting everyone, I'll give you a short story. There again from Singapore, there was a company from the United States was trying to sell technology to tint the windows of cars. Okay, they had the technology, and they went around to several stops around Singapore with a taxi driver, and they would discuss. The two guys from America would discuss this and what the technology involved, and after 4 or 5 stops, they didn't have anyone interested. So at the end of the trip, the taxi driver then asked, "Wow, you sound like you have a great product. Why don't you sell me the right to make this product in Singapore?" Now that company is called VCool, and the taxi driver and his family is very, very wealthy. So that's a sign of how IP can benefit not just big companies, but also small companies. And so that's why IP in the RCEP agreement is very important, because it gives confidence to all parties involved in the transaction that their value added will be protected.
Under the RCEP agreement, signatories are required to adopt regulatory reforms as part of their RCEP commitments to further solidify a healthy environment for businesses in the region and help bounce back better and stronger from the pandemic. And that is the latest news in the Southeast Asian nations. And stay updated about the ASEAN region. I'm Gina Pablo, and we live in interesting times.
Yes, and just before we go, Gila, we would like to greet one of our directors. A happy and blessed birthday, Direk Sam Gozum. From all of us here in ASEAN Bureau, happy birthday po, and enjoy your day. We'll see you back. We'll see you back again tomorrow. Again, I am Crystal Mapa of EBC Thailand Bureau. We live in interesting times.
This week, meron akong makakasama dito sa aking kusina. Ako'y napaka-honor. Honor ko po to.